Hi, everybody. This is day 1351, and we have no sign of life of Richard. So, okay, just breaking news every day, and today's no different. And I do have good news. Uh, Great responses back from the live stream yesterday, which, uh, especially. Well, it was just powerful. It was just powerful altogether. And did get some questions. And some of those questions were about the upcoming eclipse of April 8th because, there's so much manipulation going around the narratives of this eclipse. And I did get some feedback, positive feedback. Um, and please explain some more about this eclipse. And what does this have to do with Richard? Well, I think it's when you're going up against a very corrupt system, you need strength, and you also need to be ready for an answer, right? When they tell you that you have to really literally give up your small business that you have spent your life building, or your parents building and you inherited it, or your grandparents building it, and generational small businesses, and you have to give it up for something that doesn't exist. Like a boogeyman, right? A boogeyman. And that's exactly what happened in 2020 and 2021. The destruction of small businesses, and very deliberate, because the larger businesses were prepared to get all that, what is that, the COVID money and all of this stuff. They have lawyers, they have, so the small businesses had no chance. They're just on a totally different work a scheme and everything, money, they can't go months and months without making profit. It just doesn't work. And so this was, I believe, the COVID mandates were crimes against humanity. Absolutely crimes against humanity. Because it was all a hoax. Um, Good things came out of it, because we know that they couldn't show us any proof of any live live boogeyman. They couldn't. And then they said, okay, do you have anything, maybe like, um, maybe some other, uh, let's say rabies. Do you have rabies that you can show us live in a test tube? And they couldn't show that. They couldn't show not one, not one. Smallpox, you got smallpox in a test tube? I want to see it. Not one, nothing. This was really an exposure of something that it's hard for us to even believe that people at the system has those that would lie about um, something like this. Uh, it goes back to snake oil salesmen. We've been fed a false narrative like snake oil salesmen. And matter of fact, I think maybe there's more benefits to snake oil than what the Cobra strikes that they're um, trying to say that are necessary. Otherwise, we will die. We will die, or we will shed something, and other people will die, or whatever. It's, I just think that uh, this whole Hollywood thing, this whole living in this fake world, um, has been so detrimental because it has come from people that are in uniform. They're in uniforms. They're in coats or in uniforms that give them authority that we respect. We totally respect. We give them respect. We think, oh, they've gone through so much school and they're whatever, and they only mean us good. They don't mean us harm. And to come to the realization that there are some that have been allowed to wear our uniforms that are betraying us. Um, and we fund them, not all of them, but some of these people that wear uniforms, all kinds of different uniforms, we fund them. And in our son's case, um, it was the military. The military, you have that officer and the gentleman, right? They even have a UCMJ regulation about acting like an officer and a gentleman. And, uh, to see them in their uniforms and to see them uh, commit crimes against humanity inside our military. And that's exactly what happened in 2020 and 2021 and on. They absolutely committed crimes against humanity and against our service members. And you can say, well, maybe they didn't know. Maybe they didn't know. Well, I want to tell you that they did know, because when we were in meetings with them in 2020, they did know. Because as soon as we got behind the doors, it was like, oh, no big deal. And then when it started getting serious in 2021, then they were like, oh, well, we better keep protocol. Ma'am, you've got to wear, a cloth over your face, and your scarf is not good enough, right? And I'm like, I'm not wearing it. I'm not wearing it. And then they gave me one of those shields. And that was like God's hand on everything, because when January 6th came around, January 6, 2021, and we were banned on Facebook because we had been to January 6, 2021, right? Handing out prayer candles and that. Then Facebook banned us for a month um, from doing live streams. And I had this little dream right at the beginning of it. And you can go back and check. But I had this little dream that it was like, Pat, just wear your shield. Just wear your shield that they gave you, and you'll be able to thwart the facial recognition, and you'll be able to do the live stream. And I was like, really? So I tried it. So God's hand has been all over this. Because I put on the face shield, and I think for 25 days, maybe 20 days, 20, I can't remember how many days I went trying to do live streams. And it is so important for us to keep up these live streams, to keep our son's case alive, because they want you to forget. They want us, well, we could never forget, but they want you to forget that they murdered one of our service members that's a whistleblower. They want you to forget that they dismembered one of our service members that's a whistleblower. That they did to Richard what happened to Vanessa Guillen. They want you to forget that two right there in a row, they murdered and dismembered and, tried to hide Vanessa's body. They never ever thought that anyone would find Vanessa's body. That was such a blessing. And I've been told in private messages that have harassed us and threatened us and everything that we would never find Richard's body and remains, right? And I just feel like if God can reveal Vanessa's remains, that she can have an honorable burial, right? Instead of what she had what the demons wanted for her, um, then I'm just going to be faithful and do these live streams, and we're going to be Team Five. Richard Halliday is going to be faithful and keep researching, keep putting in those letters of open records requests and letters to officials begging for assistance. And somewhere in there, something's going to happen. So just keep on. Some way, this is going to reach the right person, the right ears. And, it's all in God's timing. And I see that because we've exposed so much every day. We're exposing more and more. And today's no different. We have breaking news, right? So, what is that breaking news? Let's see if I'm on Facebook. I just kind of went on, and yeah, I see it. I see that I'm there. Okay, thank you so much. I can see your comments. And we're a little bit, I mean, it's just been crazy how late this is. So yesterday I talked about Bob Moore, the timeline that Team Find Richard Halliday has created, showing proof that there is something very, very wrong with Bob Moore's actions, and we're delighted that Bob Moore is has been replaced by Cindy Ramirez. Very, I don't know. I don't know if she's going to be neutral. I don't know, because she's going to have a hard job, and start praying for Cindy Ramirez of El Paso Matters, the new editor. Start saying a prayer for her, because El Paso Matters is owned by El Paso Community Foundation, and they're just up to no good. They're just up to no good. So this is Bob Moore's group. So I don't know. Maybe I'd recommend Cindy Ramirez to try to work for someone else, because I think that there is a real danger here. Because absolutely Richard was murdered. Absolutely Glendon Oakley Jr. was found dead in his barracks. Absolutely Asia Graham uh, died of a fentanyl laced medication. Um, Absolutely, the Walmart mass shooting killed 22 that day, and then, of course, Memo Garcia a year later, and then, of course, Glendon and Richard. I count them as part of the victims of the Walmart case. Um, and I know I might get some feedback on that one, but okay, whatever. Because absolutely Richard was whistleblowing, and it caused audits. Audits on what? Well, we know weapons. We know that the weapons were being audited. And we know that from the mouth of the generals, right? Of the CID that told us that weapons were the big problem, that weapons were being audited. And I don't even know if the general really realized what he had stepped into when they brought him in. I don't know. Um, but they turned him into an orc pretty quick. Okay. Uh, they really did. They twisted him and turned him into a, here he was the first time we met him. Um, I would call him an elf, an uninformed elf, but an elf. And I'm referring to the analogy of Tolkien's book, where the elves are creatures of light, where they offer you insight, right? Insight and light into knowledge. And then, but they took him, and this is General Stewart, David Stewart. They took him and they twisted and turned him and put a lot of muck in him and turned him into an orc. Uh, you know, so just a really, really sad story there. Um, and this goes to our breaking news. And our breaking news is that several agencies had a whistleblower report on their desk saying that Richard's case was tampered with and interfered with, that his files were tampered with. They had that on their desk, and they had it on their desk July 18th, 2022. July 18th, 2022. But the DOD is saying nothing's there, nothing to see there. There were none. Um, Nothing to see. And yet they had multiple agencies had this report on their desk. And we were not notified. That is a huge breaking news there. They got a very, very good lead. They got a very good, a whistleblower criminal or whistleblower complaint report of this tampering of Richard Halliday's file and interference with his search and investigation. And we were not notified. Okay? And there were multiple agencies that had this. And not one of them notified us. Now that is huge, huge news. So that would be January 18th, 2022. And it would have been nice, don't you think? Don't you think that the media should cover that? Don't you think that the Secretary of the Army should know that? Don't you think whoever has oversight in the Senate, in this case, it would be Ted Cruz. Don't you think that he needs to do something about that? Where's Veronica Escobar? Don't you think that she needs to do something about that? Right? Do they really care about the service members? Do they really care? Because they absolutely know about this report. And I think that's very, very important. And yesterday, I just want to go over this timeline again with Bob Moore because I think it's very, very important. Because first and foremost, the El Paso Community Foundation were in charge of collecting all of the donations for the victim that were being sent in by places, by so many people everywhere. And they were in charge of collecting that money. And of course, they have to document it. Of course, they do, right? And of course, El Paso Community Foundation has its own bank, which is West Star Bank, the Hunt Group. This is all run by the Hunt Group. And that money gets deposited in his bank, which is really a sweet little deal. And then they get to decide on how that money gets disseminated, who gets that money. And they were giving tens of thousands of dollars to Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia. Why? She's not a victim. She's, of course she knows Alexander Gerhard Hofmann. And, of course she knows him. They had been married, but they were divorced. I think it was in 2001. So they've been divorced for way over 20 years. She's not a victim. In a legal sense, she's not. Not enough to get tens of thousands of dollars from the El Paso Community Foundation, which is meant for the victims' families, right, that are having hard times. Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia, uh, yeah, she's not a victim. Okay, she's not a victim. And so that was illegally giving money to Rosa Maria. That was Walmart money, you know? Not it wasn't from Walmart. It was to go to the victims of the Walmart mass shooting. We'd like to have a full report on where that money went and who received that money. Because our report, our intelligence that we received is that the baby that had broken bones was in the hospital because of the mother falling on top of the baby because she was shot and killed, dead, along with her husband, the father of the baby. And so the baby suffering um, should have got some kind of money, right? But our intelligence says that baby didn't get anything. Why not? When Rosa Maria, who's not even a victim, not even, eligible really under any kind of decent standards, um, got tens of thousands of dollars. I'm sure that baby has hospital bills. Uh, you know, it was really illegal and unjust and heartless. These people have hearts of stone, absolute hearts of stone. Um, so she was having a good time getting that money with her heart of stone, and Yvonne Rosales wasn't happy about that, and so started with her office investigating Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia, and discovered with Curtis Cox, with her office, that Rosa Maria was not who she says she is. And so the investigation then, of course, went into the El Paso Community Foundation because, they're giving her money. Why? Why? And our intelligence is telling us that they absolutely knew who she was. They absolutely had a relationship with her. They've known her for a long, long time. There's all kinds of conflicts of interest there. And that Alexander Gerhard Hofmann wrote was also very, very well known by them. Okay, so this is a very uh, strange situation that Yvonne Rosales was investigating in. And then after that, Bob Moore begins. He's not really happy that his group, his yeah, these are his people. Bob Moore's El Paso Community Foundation, El Paso Matters. Um, that's his group, and that he is unhappy that they're being investigated. So he starts talking about how to remove the investigator, who is Yvonne Rosales, her team. How do we remove Yvonne Rosales from office? A duly elected district attorney. How do we remove her from office? And he's talking about that on Facebook. On Facebook. So there's all kinds of screenshots out there because he was talking to Justin Underwood on Facebook and said, they were colluding right there on Facebook, and like, with just the right lawyer, we can do this petition. And of course, Omar Carmona became the just the right, wrong attorney. So, so that's uh, led to Bob Moore's group. Um, oh yeah, uh, getting Rosa Maria to start targeting Yvonne Rosales and others, and she also targeted Richard Halliday's case. So I think that's really important to put that in order. Okay. Um, and when we found out that she targeted our son's case, when we experienced her targeting our son's case, along with Leilani Hart, right? Leilani Hart did the same thing. That led us to do a lot of investigation into this, and of course 3905 Bliss Avenue that connects her to Danae Katzen, and who also interfered with our son's case. So yeah, this was definitely a criminal network. This is definitely a criminal network. And um, And so, of course, when they are this criminal network that is involved with the cartel, and also our law enforcement agencies um, that are supposed to be working for us, and our military that's supposed to be working for us, but they didn't even notify us that because they absolutely received the criminal complaint report. Mm, I always say that wrong. The whistleblower complaint report that our son's Richard's case was being interfered with and tampered with, and they didn't notify us. I mean, that is really such, I mean, there should be a lot of outrage for that. A lot of outrage. Um, and I mean, uh, I don't, you have to be very careful in today's world. Um, and this being still the octave of Easter, I want to say things in the spirit of Easter. We need justice. We need accountability. That's what I mean. So, absolutely, there needs to be more investigation and there needs to be accountability and justice for Richard. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about is this eclipse on April 8th. That is, I believe, in year 164 of the great astronomical year. Um, so if my calculations are right, and I think it looks pretty good. So that would be the beginning, because we know that April 8th, 2024 is eclipse number 1 on our chart of 70 eclipses that repeat over and over and over again 36 times before they repeat in self same days on the very same day of the calendar again. So every 651 years, um, you can cut and paste it forward and backward, the entire timestamps, all the timestamps of these 70 eclipses that have moved through the 36, the decan, the 36 constellations. Um, and I think that's really making a 360 degrees circle, right? And you can see that with time lapse photography with the stars that they make circles. And um, yeah, don't let the narrative make you think this is pagan, um, to think about the stars, to think about the eclipse. To don't fall for that, because this is what God created, the timestamps in the heaven, the clock in the heaven. That's what it is. And once you know how it works, you're in total awe. You're in total awe of the order, the total order of God's world. There's no randomness. There's no natural selection. There's no evolution. There's none of that. Matter of fact, there's not time enough for evolution to have occurred. Evolution is just a hoax to divert your attention. And so when you know about these eclipses and you know about the transits of Mercury and Venus, and you know about the 19-year moon cycle, the 15-year solar cycle, and how they repeat on self-same days, and then you plot all those self-same days just like you would make the chart for the eclipses. You have timestamps for everything, and those timestamps tell a story, a historical story of 7 days that have never been broken, the 7-day week that's never been broken, and the 70 eclipses that have never been broken. 70 eclipses, like 7 days a week. They just repeat and repeat. And so April 8th, 2024 is eclipse number 1, 1010, I call it 1-10-10, meaning it's in the 10th great astronomical year, and it is the 10th, 18th, the 18 and 10 and 11 days cycle. It's the 10th one of those, because you have to have 36 of them. 36 times 18. To make the 651 years. So I hope that makes sense. It's complicated because in its simplicity, this clock, and just think about these clockmakers, how they make all of these cogs, and then they put the jewels in there, and they fit it all together. And these jewels, they all represent like the Venus, the Mercury, the sun, the moon, these eclipses, and and then they run it together and they keep perfect time. So and there's some movies out there. I think there's some YouTubes out there how they make these incredible watches, right? And very small, but they have to have all these cogs, and they put them just in the right place. And it makes total sense, because in its simplicity, it's very complicated, because that is protection against fraud, waste, and abuse of God's time clock, right? Timestamps. Bill Hicks might be able to tamper with his timestamp for being DA, which makes him an illegitimate DA, but you can't tamper with God's timestamps of the eclipses, the sun, the moon, the stars. You can't tamper with it. It's perfect time. And I don't know why they don't teach us this. I don't know why, because it's something really beautiful. But there's a lot of people out there that are, waiting for people to watch their YouTubes and their Rumbles and their Odysseys that explain all of this. And because that's how I was introduced to it. And I'm looking in, and I'm like, what? Let's look into this. And it's just puts a skip in your walk. And for the octave of Easter, I think this is a great, especially with this upcoming 1-10-10 eclipse. What better time to not be fooled, not be frightened, because this eclipse happened 18 years ago and will happen again 18 years from now. And in 651 years, it will repeat um, in that same path, which I wanted to look up before I came on. This path over these same cities that are named the same, because these paths are found all over the world, like the St. Michael's ley line. They call them ley lines. And these ley lines, um, I guess every 651 years, because 651 years from now, you're going to have that same eclipse taking that same path. It's going to be wonderful. It's so wonderful. And when you know that, there's no randomness, there's no natural selection. Um, and so you know that there is justice in this world because there are these true timestamps. So thank you so much. And I hope that um, I guess gives you some encouragement to in your own battles that you're going. I know we're battling for Richard's remains, um, that is going over the border, and here we get information that these agencies had in their hands a really good source that put in an amazing report that Richard's case was being tampered with, and they didn't even notify us. The Army doesn't notify us that Richard is missing. And then when they get a report about, hey, I think someone killed Richard Halliday, um, because at least, you know, uh, these files are being tampered with. Richard's case is being tampered with. I mean, they don't even call us to let us know. That's that's hard-hearted. Yeah. Okay, so please share, and like I was about to say, I hope um, that the message today will give you encouragement to move forward in your own pursuit for justice. And maybe you can share these live streams and Richard's pictures, the incredible story about Interpol, the incredible story about Nadal Baim, the FBI agent, and on and on and on. It's um, it's really incredible, and everyone should know it. The media has a media blackout on this, because they know that I'm not gonna. Um, well, Team Find Richard Halliday, we're not pro Cobra Strike. We're not pro um, the fear mongering and all of the things that they've tried to do, that we're not pro evolution. How can I be pro evolution when I know about the great time clock, the timestamps, that totally disprove any kind of randomness and chaos in our world, right? And in the creation of the world. So, and if you've ever read the book from um, Darwin, you will understand. That's why it's not required reading. You know, they want to feed you all this, this propaganda about it, but they don't want you to read his book because his book is so bad. It is so bad. Um, anyway, so I hope that gives you some encouragement, of victory, of victory. So thank you so much for your prayers too, and please share. Thank you so much. God bless.